Hey Homestead peeps, so today we are pickling banana peppers, the easiest recipe ever, and drying basil. First thing that I want to do is take my basil and wash it really well. I've placed a colander inside of a bowl, and I'm going to fill the bowl up with cool water and just kind of swish it around, make sure it's all it all gets washed. And then, now this basil, none of it has ever been like fertilized. There's no chemicals on it. It's all, so the only thing would be like insects that need to make sure we don't have any insects inside in the leaves anywhere or anything like that. But so once I've covered the basil, swish it around a little bit, and then I'm going to just take the colander out of the bowl, drain the water. Once I've done that, I'm going to take some paper towel and spread these leaves out and let them dry, air dry a little bit. I wish you could smell this. This smells so good. One thing that I do want to let you know, though, that dried basil it doesn't require as much basil when you use dried basil as it does when you use fresh basil. The reason being because of the water in the fresh basil, in the leaves, the water that it absorbs dilutes the flavor of the actual herb itself. So when we dehydrate it, we get rid of all that water, which concentrates the flavor of the herb. So I'm going to let this lay here for a little bit and air dry, and then we'll come back. So the first thing that we're going to be doing, now that the leaves are we've got some of the excess water off of them, is we're going to be removing the leaves. And we're going to actually remove the leaves, just kind of pinch it with our fingernail right at, let me see if I can show you, right at the base of the leaf. I don't want any of the stem of the leaf in what I'm drying, because those are just not going to do well with what we're doing. So this is what we're doing, is removing all the leaves. Now, another method of drying basil that we're not doing today, but I did want to show you how to do it, is to take several stalks or several of the, get a few here. So take them, after you've washed them, take them and just tie them together like this. Get a little piece of string and tie them together. Then you can hang them outside for about 3 days, and that will dry the leaves till they're like a little crunchiness to them. And then, so that process is what we're going to do, but in a matter of an hour and 45 minutes. I've preset my oven to 175 degrees, and we're going to put all these leaves on a cookie sheet in the oven and dehydrate them basically for about an hour and 45 minutes. In the oven, because some of these leaves are a little bit smaller, they didn't make it to full maturity, but I wanted to go ahead and cut the basil anyway, because it's sort of overshadowing some of the other herbs that I have growing in there. So that was one of the reasons I wanted to cut them. But you normally, for these large sized leaves, I would leave this in here for an hour and 45 minutes at 175. But I'm going to do it like for an hour and come back and check it and then see if we need to go a little bit longer. So I decided to, since there are a lot of smaller tender leaves on here and they're a little bit more difficult to pick off, because there's so many, I decided to, in order not to waste them, that I would bunch these up and dry them, and they will be easier to get the leaves off of once they're dried. So it's a simple thing to tie them up. I'm just going to take some cotton twine and wrap around the ends of the stems a couple of times, tie a knot, and then I will tie all these up outside and leave them for about 3 days. So I've just found a mop handle, and that's all I'm going to use. I'm just going to set this outside and take these and hang them on it. Hanging them just helps keep the bugs away a little bit. I would not put them next to the window where you have inside light at night, because bugs are attracted to the light inside the house and they might get on your herbs. So this is just going to hang freely on the back porch. So there you have it. We'll check back with these in a couple of days and update you in a future video. We're going to be pickling banana peppers today. It's the easiest recipe I've ever seen for pickling peppers. And I will put the recipe in the description below. But it's the easiest recipe I've ever seen, and I think you're going to enjoy how simple this really is to do. Okay, so this is the pickling recipe basically. We're going to do 1 cup of white vinegar, 1 cup of apple cider vinegar, and a 1/2 cup of sugar. We're going to put this on the stove and bring it to a boil. While that's heating up, I'm going to cut the remaining peppers that I have. And I wanted to show you one thing that I'm doing with the pepper. So if you notice, if you feel the pepper right towards the end of the pepper, it's sort of hard, that's where the seeds are. So I go down just a little bit from that seed pod, and I still got some seeds in here, and that's okay if you have seeds in it. But I really liked these banana peppers, so I am saving the seeds from these banana peppers, and I'm going to be drying them out and hopefully be able to use them next year. So this is the seed pod. Let me see if you can see that. So I'll be taking the seeds out of this section and saving them. The rest of the pepper goes into the jar that I'm using. Now for this recipe, we don't need to do the water bath, but it's also not a recipe that is going to be long term. It's not something you can sit on the shelf. It's something that goes into the refrigerator as soon as we're finished with it. It needs to sit about a week and let it marinate for about a week after you've poured the brine over it. But because we only have a small amount of banana peppers, this is our first year growing them, and we didn't have like a huge amount, we don't really have enough to store in a pantry jars and jars and jars of peppers. So we only have enough to make probably 1 good jar, and so we will be using this method instead. And if you're a small farmer, or if you're beginning and it's just your first year, this might be a good option just to get used to putting foods away without going through the big hassle of water bath and the whole canning process. So this kind of just gives you a good taste of getting started with it. I'm slicing these about 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch wide. We love pickled banana peppers on sandwiches. That's one way we like to eat them. And it's just been fun this year being able to put a little bit of what we've grown away and enjoy the fresh produce. We have plans to expand a little bit for next year and the year after that, but we're not going to try not to get in over our heads, you know, the first year. Just have a few more. I did want to let you know the spices that go into the brine. did want to let you know the spices that go into the brine are celery seed, what was it? Celery seed, mustard seed, but instead what we're doing, I have a pickling spice by McCormick's, and it's just already got a blend of seasonings together. So that's what we're going to be using, just because I didn't have the celery seeds and the mustard seeds on hand, and I didn't want to wait any longer because some of the peppers that I had were starting to turn a little dark, and I wanted to go ahead and get this done. So we're improvising. We're using what we have, which may give it a little bit different flavor, but that's okay. It's all kind of a fun experiment anyway. So this is going to fill our jar up. I have 3 more.
Motion detected at the front door.
And the last one. So I'm going to take all these ends here that have the seeds in them, and I'll be scraping them out and saving those seeds for drying and planting next. Just checking in on them. They're already starting to show that they're turning a little bit of a different color. So we'll just keep an eye on them. Now that our brine has come to a good rolling boil, we are going to add the pickling spice, and then we'll be pouring it into the jar with the banana peppers. There's our pickling spice, and once again that is McCormick's whole mixed pickling spice, and it has coriander, mustard seed, bay leaves, ginger, cloves, chilies, black pepper. I believe that's it. So let's pour it into the jar. It didn't quite use all of that, but we're going to go with what we've got. So I'm just going to put that leaf back in there. I'm going to just wipe the lid, the rim of the lid off, and put my lid and my ring on, and that's kind of warm. And just hand tighten it. And we're gonna let that's it. I'm gonna put it in the refrigerator, let it sit for a week in the refrigerator before we dig into them. But those are your pickled banana peppers. So now our bay leaves are all dried, and if you can listen, you can hear that they're crunchy. So what I'm going to do is get these together. I'm going to put them in a Ziploc bag. to get the air out of them. Then I'm just going to crunch them up. Putting them in the Ziploc bag sort of keeps us from having a mess and, you know, wasting some of it. So I have this little jar here, and y'all, I am kind of nutso about just saving jars. This is a marinara jar that we bought at the store with marinara sauce in it. And it actually says mason on it when the labels were taken off. It's just like a mason jar. So save your jars. They can also, I use them for saving my chicken broth after I cook chicken sometimes. Not to can. Now, I don't use these jars for long-term storage, but if I just want to save something in the refrigerator that's left over, like chicken broth or whatever, to use in another recipe, that'll save a couple of weeks in the refrigerator in these jars. So anyway, this is a jar that I saved. I don't know where it came from, but it's just perfect for this basil. So I'm going to crunch this up, and I'm going to pour it in this little jar. So here we go. Pouring it in the jar, trying not to waste any of it. But that was a perfect size jar for what we had. So I'm just going to take a permanent marker, put on the top that this is basil, and put today's date on. So there you have it. So from today's little bit of what we've done, we have preserved a jar of basil. We have put up a jar of pickled banana peppers. And I've also saved the seeds from the banana peppers to dry out and to plant next year. It's not a lot. It really isn't in the big scheme of things, but it is in the fact that we're learning. And we don't want to get overwhelmed. This is our first year, but we do want to start working on our self-sufficiency. This is just another step. So if you aren't at the level of farming yet, that you are supplying for your families all of their groceries and all of their needs for the entire year, that's fine. You have to start somewhere, and this is one of those steps for us. So I just wanted to reiterate that, you know, there are some uncertain days ahead right now, and we are taking steps towards self-sufficiency. But I did want to say, don't live in a state of fear. We're not doing this out of fear. We're doing this out of preparedness, having a mentality of being prepared in case, in the event that something happens and we need to be self-sufficient. We are already on our way to do this. Helped you guys. I hope you learned something about preserving a little bit, short-term preserving and seed saving, and that you got some value from this video. Be sure to drop a comment if you have any suggestions on first-time farmers and beginners on steps that they can take to get on their way to towards self-sufficiency. We'd love to hear from you. Hey, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, and be sure to hit that notification bell so you can get notified every time we have a new video come out. We are putting videos out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Hope you find lots of value from them and that you would continue to watch us. Thanks again for your support. Recipe is in the description for the pickled banana peppers, and we will see you in the next video. God bless you.